Ali Khatami, imagining that her son Rouhani gets the backing of the reformers, the moderates, that his campaign goes from strength to strength, that there is a second round that he is allowed to go through, that the election is allowed to carry on under the guise of a free and fair one, and that he comes out on top. Won't that revive all of the opposition forces in Iran, and won't it push them and indeed allow them to force real change?
I doubt it very much. I think this system cannot be repaired. I believe that there has to be a change of regime in Iran if this country is going to survive.
Not just a change of president.
Not exactly, because Khatami was there for 8 years. He was much stronger than Mr. Rouhani would ever be. And his answer was at the end that I have no authority. He used the word which simply means...
It's precisely what you were saying a moment ago.
He said, I have been a concierge. That's the word he used.
It has been tried before and it has not worked.
Yeah, the whole discussion these past few years, whether it was under a kind of populism or more intellectual way or outside or opposition from outside, it's not the Republic Islamic now anymore that the people, they say, okay, we can deal with that, but not anymore with the Velayat Faqih. And within the system, it's also the same thing. And now it's why I think that Khomeini may give some credit to West, as I told you, for the nuclear issue, to say, okay, you want to discuss, you have to discuss with me. To save his position, in my opinion, that is the big question about Iran. Whether after this, after Khomeini, till he is there, nothing will change structurally. But whether we will have another supreme leader or not, the change will come, in my opinion, after Khomeini. And just one word to say that he may give. There were two let's say, kind of possibilities for the people inside the power in Iran. Ahmadinejad was following a kind of model as a Putin model. You know, he wanted to have a coup d'etat by the Revolutionary Guard and to become a new Putin of Iran. And there is another position within the Revolutionary Guard to open a little, and some of the senior mullahs, to open a little bit the economy, just to give the people kind of breathe, but not open at all, no change for the Islamization of the country, a kind of Chinese model. That was the two. But it won't work in Iran, because Iran is not China, Iran is not Russia, and it's why, by the way, they are in a kind of cul-de-sac, you know, and they have to do something, in fact.
Well, I think, you know, we have to also remember that Khatami came in against all odds, and he managed to do much more than anyone actually thought he could. Afterwards, people were disappointed that he didn't do more, but yet the things that he did were the things that everyone then built on, and for which everyone is nostalgic about once Ahmadinejad came into power. So yes, it is not the kind of radical change that quickly satisfies everyone's needs, but it's a dripping on a stone in order to change something within what the system can tolerate. And until you have an alternative that is plausible and feasible, that is what people can hope for.
So it is your view then, I imagine, following that through to its logical conclusion, that should Hassan Rouhani win, and should he prove to be the sort of moderate reformist that people would wish him to be, those that are likely to go out and vote for him tomorrow, that it would allow to a certain degree of change within the system?
I think so. That's at least the reason why people are voting for him. They hope for that. And I think the system could tolerate it to some degree. One can only hope for that.
And
otherwise, of course, otherwise, of course, the dialectics, if you will, of a revolution is that at some point there will come a breaking point. You know, at some point, the way they're going about narrowing down the base of the elite cannot go on. And you already see criticism of that from within the system. That, you know, we are in a sense making ourselves more vulnerable and fragile, paradoxically, as we think that we're tightening our grip on power.
2009 was a reminder.
Yes, and the supreme leader, when he dies, The question, of course, will be whether there can be a committee rather than a single individual, exactly because he has so much power institutionally.
Lori Dunn.
No, just pick it up on that. I mean, I fear that the trajectory has unfortunately been since 2009 more and more hardening. There have been cracks and fissures, but there have been, I think, an increasing influence of security forces, of those tied to hardline factions, and that's who's on the upswing. And so while I appreciate, and I actually was pleasantly surprised at how much debate and dialogue Rouhani was able to really put into this election campaign, it changed the dynamic. It put issues out there that hadn't been discussed or weren't expected to be discussed in this election. I guess I'm still at the end a pessimist that the system will fully let him through, because I think they're in survival mode, and it all reaches a breaking point where if this is about survival of the existing system, and the more that there's pressure underway against it, and there's a lot of that right now, the more it's about.
Looking ahead, Ali Khatami, then to the next 24 hours and 48 hours, the next few days, what should we be watching for?
Well, I think what we're going to look for is how the young people in Iran, the 70% of the population, is going to react. If they see a glimmer of hope,
And this must be what
as
they're
one
seeing.
of them does here, then there is then there will be change. But I don't really see this system capable of changing. I think we are very closely getting to the point of Brezhnev and Yeltsin.
Isn't that though what counts? That glimmer of hope, Fariba Hajrudi. It's what invigorated those who went out and campaigned so bravely in 2009. A glimmer of hope, actually, sometimes is all it takes.
Yes, because they have no choice, you see. It's why every time I try to put myself in Iran, to try to imagine if I would have been obliged to live in Iran, and maybe one day I would go just to do whatsoever I can within Iran, because I think the change will come from inside, you see. Then, of course, in that situation, you have a choice between a less of the worse, if I could say. Then, of course, and especially the young people, because first of all, they take risk, as we could have seen. Secondly, they have an ideal. And third, they have to live. Then, definitely, and I do hope with them that there will be a little bit of change. If I may say, and we agree in this, that they are obliged in a way. Mr. Khatami said very, very, not in details, but really the economic situation, they have to do something about it. And all the other aspect of it as well. Only problem for me, which I am unfortunately quite pessimistic about, is human rights.
We're going to closely continue to watch it, of course, here on France 24 over the coming days. Thank you very much indeed to all my guests for having been with us tonight. That brings us to the end of tonight's debate. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow for the world this week. I do hope you'll join us then. Goodbye for now.